Well, hey crafty friends, it's Hiedi Scott with DiyDreaming, and I'm super excited about the decoupage projects I'm going to be showing you today because we're going to be using some kind of unusual supplies to do them. Probably most of you guys are familiar with the idea of painting some Mod Podge on whatever your item is that you want to decoupage, laying down whatever kind of paper or paper napkin or fabric you want, taking the edges off of that, and then covering it again. But I'm going to show you a little bit different way to do it. One of them involves an iron. I have one that involves this press and seal. I'm going to show you how to use a fingernail file, and we're going to get crazy and use a lighter. So I have tons to show you. As you're hopping on, say hello. Let me know where you're watching from. Why the iron, Marianne says. I will show you, so stay with me. What was I saying? As you're hopping on, say hello. Let me know where you're watching from. Feel free to sprinkle. Feel free to ask questions. And if you missed any part of this video, come back and you can watch the whole thing on replay. Okay, so before I actually start, let me show you a couple projects, a couple of decoupage projects that I've done in the past. All right, this morning I have been busy making this set of napkin rings for my own house. I still have a bunch of glue strings on them, using some ribbon from Dollar Tree, some Dollar Tree shapes, and a napkin that I've used for a lot of different things for my house. So I have a set of 6 that I'm gonna keep in my kitchen for my own house, and we'll be making 2 more sets, doing them just a little bit different from how I did these in just a few minutes. But this is also something that I made recently with that same paper napkin, and I also decoupaged one of my beads. So if you missed this video where we did this, and we did hangers, wood hangers that were white, that video is in my video section. I wanted to also show you these candles. They're battery operated. They're sitting in my family room. I just got them out. And we made these last year. This is more of a traditional decoupage kind of a project. Anyways, so that's something that we've done as well. Just get these out of the way. Also, I've done a ton of seashells, and you guys will do a ton more this summer. Okay, this is an oyster shell that I decoupaged last year or the year before. Here's another oyster shell. Here's some teeny tiny little scallops. This is, I don't know what kind of a clam. This is a big scallop shell. This one's my favorite right here. So we'll be doing all kinds of fun stuff like these. And we'll put a new twist on it for this year. Because I have done the decoupage shells for 2 years. They're super easy, you guys. So be watching for that to be coming up. Okay, so those are the projects that I wanted to show you before I got started. Now, let's talk about using your iron. Okay, I'm going to show you this method, which if you craft a lot, you're probably familiar with it. This method of using your iron. And what you're going to do, I have a bunch of these little wood cutouts from Dollar Tree. And what you're going to do with this is we're going to use Mod Podge. You can use whatever kind you have, or if you don't have Mod Podge, you can ask Mr. Google or Miss YouTube how to make it using white school glue. I prefer the matte, but I know people have all different kinds. So what you would do in this method where we're going to use the iron is, just dry off my brush, is you're going to take your shape, and I'm not decoupaging on this side because it'll show through. Also, I did not paint these first, which you totally could if you would like. You could paint them and then do this process on them. So I'm just going to take a brush and some decoupage, and I'm going to cover pretty thick the whole wood piece. And I'll hold it up and show you what I mean when I say thick. You don't want any huge globs, but you do want it pretty thick on here. Okay, and then you let this dry. I set it so I don't bump it. You're going to let it dry for, I don't know, until the Mod Podge basically disappears. Okay, then what you're going to have is some, they'll look like this. And I have a bunch of them right here that I put the Mod Podge on earlier, and they're all ready to go. Okay, let's talk about napkins and then we'll get the iron out. Marianne says she's not a beach person. Well, you can do this same idea for any season. In fact, we did, I did fall and I did Christmas this way that I'm going to show you in just a second. So, okay, so I'm going to be using these napkins that they're Beverage napkins from Dollar Tree. And just so you know, you definitely want to make sure that you get down to just one ply. And some napkins, most of the Dollar Tree ones are 2-ply. Some of the nicer napkins that you can buy out there, they're 3-ply. And so you're going to remove a ply, and then you'll remove another one. And you can use tape on either side to pull it apart, but these Dollar Tree napkins are pretty easy to get apart, if I could see them. So what is everyone doing today? If you like decoupage and you would like to, feel free to sprinkle this video. Okay, so this is what I'm talking about when you say you're gonna go down to 1 ply. We are just going to decoupage this. We're taking this off, and I'm throwing it in my box here of paper towels because I'll use it. You know, I go through so many paper towels. Okay, I have a whole bunch of these that I've done that are getting ready to go, and I'm going to pull my little mini ironing board out. And my iron. And I'm using 2 pieces of parchment paper, one for the underneath and one for the top. And where are my little starfish? Basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to lay them out on this piece of parchment paper. I don't think it really matters which direction they're going with these napkins, but okay, so the other one is over here drying, so I'll come back to that. So I have my wood pieces that I put the Mod Podge on, and they're dry. And then I'm just going to take one of my napkins, actually, let's just do 4 for right now, because I can get all 4 on one napkin. Okay, and I'm going to lay my napkin on the top of them. You can fiddle around to get them placed how you want them. If there's something in particular on your napkin that you want to be in the decoupage or not. And then I'm going to lay another piece of parchment paper. This is not wax paper, it's parchment paper, over the top to protect my iron. So the bottom piece is protecting my ironing board, the top piece is protecting my iron. And I have my iron set on cotton, no steam. If that seems too hot, you can turn your iron down just a little bit. So now all I'm doing is I'm ironing over the top of my wood pieces that are sandwiched between parchment paper that have dried Mod Podge on them. And there is a napkin, a paper napkin, laying on top. And what your iron does is it reactivates the Mod Podge, so it will adhere to the napkin. And I don't know if you're like me, but sometimes when I'm working with Mod Podge, my fingers want to get stuck in everything. And I can't get my whatever paper or paper napkin I'm attempting to use to lay flat. This solves all those problems. So you're just gonna go over it until you feel like your pieces are stuck together. We're gonna go over it again in just a minute. So here is what I made. You can see how they are adhered now to the napkin. And I'm going to cut this into 4 pieces so I can give each one some individual attention and make sure that I get, you know, the sides really well and all the different points. I mentioned earlier that that these wood pieces are from Dollar Tree. They're part of this collection that is called Shore Living. They have a big variety of shapes. And Dollar Tree has this kind of thing throughout the whole year. It's seasonal. So if you don't want to do a beachy project right now, just put this idea in your back pocket and you can come back to it for patriotic, for Memorial Day, or for 4th of July. You can come back to it for fall, or winter, or Christmas, or Easter. They have great shapes. And I'm going to show you how to make the napkin ring part 2. Okay, so this one is good and on there. All right, let's keep going. And it's smooth, which is nice. Don't just lay your hot iron down. You want to be moving it because you don't want to scorch your napkin and or burn the wood. So tell me in the comments who has used this ironing method on dry Mod Podge before. Tell me if you've done this one. Because I do have one, stay with me, that I'll be showing you next that is different. But I'm going to show you a couple different ways to get all this excess paper off as well. Okay, let's say that these are pretty much ready. I'm going to move my iron back over here, and what we're going to do is I'm going to trim the big pieces of napkin off, and then, ooh, and these are pretty hot. And then I'm going to show you 2 ways to get the paper off easily around the excess, because around the edges, because this looks terrible, right? You want it to be snug right on your shape. So, and I'm going to also show you this at the very end, how to make these. Okay, so let me just get this cut down a little bit. The first way to do it is with the fingernail file. The coarser your fingernail file, the better. You can also use a sanding block, but I have found that a fingernail file really works the best to sand the sides, the excess paper off, and the coarser the better. If you're going to use a sanding block, then opt for something that's pretty coarse and not super fine. Okay, just toss all of this. And you can see how quick this happened, that it became this. Okay, so this is my fingernail file. You can use one like this, or alternatively, this kind is hard to find. This kind is good for the little teeny spots. Like on this seahorse, it was hard to get, oh gosh, and there's so much glue on it. It was hard to get all the little bumps and everything off, and it could still probably use a little bit more work with a smaller fingernail file. But, okay, so basically all you're gonna do is you're gonna hold your project and you wanna go down right along the edge. And you can do a specific area, or you can do the whole thing and then come back. Do be careful though, that if you don't get a spot sanded off, do be careful that if you're trying to pull it off, that you don't pull it off of the shape. I did that on something that I'll show you in a minute. I know this is not pleasant to listen to. I'm sorry. Okay, so basically that took the majority of everything off, and now I'm just gonna go around it just to make sure there's no big puddles of Mod Podge. This works great for getting into the little, if you have little tiny nooks and crannies. And I didn't pop out the hole. I'm leaving it like this. So that is one way to get the excess paper off of the edges. Really, honestly, the easier way, I'm going to show you right now. Grabbing my little tub of water just to be safe. I'm so sorry. I was getting a call and I was trying to hang up. Okay, so the other way is to burn it off. And just know that sometimes you're going to get a little bit of scorch marks on your paper. So the best, flames and fire goes up. So the best way to hold your project is with the paper side down, because if there's any scorching, you want it to be on the underneath side. And do this in your kitchen or somewhere that you have something in case you need it. You can see how that fire is just traveling around it, and I'm just holding on to the center of my little shape. It's going to go all the way around and burn itself out. Then you are going to have some ashes, and you can just use a finger or a file if you want to finish it off. Now you can see that I did get one kind of little scorch right here. The smaller that you cut your paper before you start burning it, the better. Let's do one more, but I'm going to chop it a little bit shorter. What do you guys think? Okay, Celia says that she's done this one too. You guys tell me in the comments who has used a lighter before, and tell me in the comments if you've ever used an iron to do decoupage. Come out of here. I need to get some lunch. I'm a little shaky. But I was so excited to do this project that I decided to do it before I sat down to get something for lunch. So if you like these ideas that I'm showing, I would love it if you would consider sprinkling this video to your Facebook page, or if you're in groups where it's allowed, to a group. Don't sprinkle it anywhere where they don't want you to sprinkle other people's videos. You know, don't sprinkle onto another crafter's page. That's not good. And I, believe it or not, I do have people do that in my group. Okay, so I cut it a little bit tighter, and let's see if it scorches less. When you cut it tighter, you may have to light it multiple times. You want to hold this as level as possible. Okay, back to this side right here. Yeah, when I had bigger pieces of paper around the edges, it burned all the way around. So then I would just take your fingers or a inside piece of a napkin, and you're just going to kind of brush off the any ashes or whatever that might remain. Okay, so we were safe. Do this, if you're going to use the burn method, do it somewhere where you're not going to be, you know, risking a fire or anything. Okay, I have 3 that are finished. I'm going to set this one aside. We'll come back to these to add the back of the napkin. Now, what you would want to do at this point is take your Mod Podge, especially if you're going to use these if you're going to make them into napkin rings. You want to just take your Mod Podge and put a generous but not as thick of a coat right on the top. And this is where, if you're using glossy Mod Podge, you'll get more of a glossy finish. I personally like the matte look better, but I know everybody likes different things. So I would just let that dry, and then it will be good to go. Okay, let me show you the other method, and then we will come back to these. All right, and for this, I need to get my ironing board out again, and we're going to use this. This is press and seal from my kitchen. The hardest part of doing this project is getting the press and seal out of the container and torn. Seriously, it's seriously, I don't know, it's difficult to work with. Okay, so what we're going to do here is we're going to take some of our press and seal, and I've not done anything to these wood shapes, and I'm going to pull off a nice piece. I'm going to try not to have it be all crumpled too much. Okay, that wasn't too bad. This is the sticky side. Okay, and then I'm going to take some of my shapes. here. And I'm going to lay them onto the sticky side of the press and seal. Let's just do those. Let me scooch this one down a little bit so I have more room. And they're going to sort of stick enough to keep it from wiggling around. I'll lift it up in just a second and show you. Then you do want to cut off, you know, most of the excess. You can do this with regular cling wrap too. Press and seal is just a little bit easier, I find, because it sticks to your wood project better. Okay, so I have my two little turtles. I want to make sure there's no big wrinkles, and they are stuck to my press and seal. Okay, let's do the same with this one. Oh, I do have a big wrinkle here. Okay, so here's my two little turtles. This is the press and seal, this is the back. The sticky side is the one that I pushed the wood piece onto. Okay, now I'm going to put down a piece of parchment paper. I hope this is all making sense. And you guys, as soon as I'm finished here, I will answer questions. But if you're watching and you're thinking, oh, these are interesting ways to do decoupage, then feel free to sprinkle this video to your social media. Okay, so I'm putting the press and seal up. So my wood piece is down. And then I'm going to take a napkin that's 1 ply again. And let's fiddle around with our placement so that we can have some interesting stuff happening. Okay, so now I'm going to put a piece of parchment paper over the top, and you guys are not going to believe this. It is going to melt that press and seal onto your wood shape, and it's going to essentially melt that napkin into it. It's the coolest thing. This is the least messy method. Now, so I always worry about bad things happening. That's just my nature. I was a lawyer before I was an at-home mommy, so I'm always thinking about that kind of stuff. I don't suggest that you use the burn method with these ones that have press and seal. First of all, I mean, if you've done it before and it works great, then more power to you. But I would just be worried about what the fumes might be that you'd be breathing in. I'm going to cut these two apart. And I also would be worried about how much the press and seal is going to catch fire. So if you're being frugal with your napkins, of course, you can do more than 2 little shapes on each piece of napkin. But I'm just trying to show you this as quick as possible because I know people have stuff to do, places to go and things to do. Okay, so I'm not quite finished yet, but you can see, here's, ooh, that's hot. Let me put it over here. Here is the wood piece. Next up is the press and seal. Can you guys kind of see it? And then the napkin. So I'm going to take a few minutes to iron these some more and just make sure that the press and seal is completely melted onto the wood surface and that the napkins are melted into it. So I'm kind of feeling the edges of my little turtle shapes. I'm not going to leave my iron in any one place too long because these do get hot, and you don't want to scorch your napkin. I mean, they seriously get hot. Okay. So, let's finish these up. By the way, I do get a ton of questions about, I'm just clean these ashes up real quick, about my little iron, or about my little ironing board, I'm sorry. I got it at Walmart maybe 2 years ago. It was like $16 or something. It wasn't expensive. It is really nice to have, and I'll show you why. I have some of those command adhesive hangers. I have one hanging on the inside of my closet. And this particular ironing board, sorry, when you take it down, it has this hook. So I just hang it in my closet like this. It takes up no space. And then when I'm ready to use it, I just pop the legs up. So I don't know what the brand is. I don't remember, and I don't have any packaging for it at this point. But if you're going to buy an iron for a craft room, just be on the lookout for something that's going to fold flat and not take up a ton of room, and something that has a hanger so that you could hang it like on the inside door of a closet. Okay, good. All right, so to finish these press and seal little turtles off, I'm going to use the fingernail file. And I want to show you what happens, so stay with me if you're getting bored. Also, I want to show you how to do the napkin. Ooh. Be careful that you don't break your little turtle's head off by sanding too aggressively. Okay, sometimes what you're going to find is that the napkin comes off, but you still have pieces of press and seal. And you can really usually just kind of pull those up once you get this turtle is a perfect example of why these little fingernail files are great. So let me show you that. This does take a little bit more time than burning, but again, I wouldn't burn these ones that you did with the press and seal. I don't know, I just wouldn't feel comfortable doing that myself or telling you to do it. If you have done it yourself and it's worked for you, great. So this is what this guy is looking like. And I'm just going to pull the press and seal off. And where's my little teeny old-fashioned emery board? It can get in between, like the underneath of this little turtle's fin. And I'm just going to pull the press and seal that's still on there off. You could do the whole thing with this or with the other one. I was a little aggressive with this anchor. I'll show you in just a minute. And also, I was a little aggressive with this mermaid tail that I'll show you in just a minute too. So take your time. Okay, so I've got most of the paper off, but I still have the press and seal. And you're just gonna sand until you can pull it off. I did break a layer of this wood off of this guy. So I'm going to stop sanding because you get the idea for that totally, right? I'm sure you do. So you can use press and seal, or it could be any kind of cling wrap. Any brand, any kind. And you can get cling wrap at Dollar Tree also. Okay, so let me show you my boo-boos. And then, where's the other boo-boo? It's right here. And then I'll show you how to attach the napkin thing. Wow, there's a lot of people on. And thank you to everyone who did stars. I so appreciate that. Marianne, I think is what her name is, says she can't imagine me being aggressive about anything. Well, sometimes I just get a little hurried because I am want things to happen right now. Okay, so I tried to pull this napkin up too soon and I pulled it off the end of this mermaid tail. Can you see that? So, and I haven't put a second coat of Mod Podge over the top of this yet. This one I just did the ironing method. But a few days ago, or a week ago, I showed you how to make this beachy wood using just some Dollar Tree pieces. And it's a painting technique, a really fun dry brushing technique. Anyways, one of the things I made was this little palette, and I was going to put the mermaid tail on it. But it was plain. I had painted it white. And everybody in this group said, you need to, this is how I was going to do, you need to do something to it. So that's one thing that I was too aggressive with. The other thing is when I was getting the edges cleaned up with my file on this, I actually broke one side of this anchor off. But when I put the, and everything needs to be cleaned up a little bit, but when I glued this napkin to it, I just was able to glue it back together. And I'm going to use these for my table during summer, and I don't care if one of them is broken. So these are the ones that I made beforehand for my table. And I'm going to show you some ribbon options. I cut my ribbon not quite 7 inches long. And I think that is going to be big enough to fit almost any kind of napkin, cloth or paper in it that you would like. This is a little whale. Here's a sailboat. Here's one of the little starfish. Here's that anchor that I broke. And here's a turtle. So I did 6 for my table. I have one more. Oh, the seahorse. Okay, so I was in this mode to use as much Dollar Tree stuff as possible. We used this napkin set, but you can use whatever you want, whatever paper napkin. You're going to take it apart so it's really thin. It's just one ply. And you can paint your shapes white before you start if you want, but you really don't have to. And then once you have your edges off, you want to give it one more coat of Mod Podge and let that dry thoroughly. Okay, so there's a couple different kinds of ribbon that you can get at Dollar Tree. One of them is this. It's like a burlap that's wired. I almost always see this in the ribbon section when I'm at Dollar Tree. So let's cut not quite 7 inches. press and seal stuck to them, okay? And I'm going to do it on one of these. And I'll do it on one of these, okay? This one was the one that we burned the edges, and it could use a little bit of work on it. Also, it's going to need a little bit of Mod Podge over the top. But I can do that after I show you how to attach the ribbon holder. And I did not poke out that hole on the top. Okay, so this is not quite 7 inches long in this ribbon. The ones for my house I did with this, which is a very light grayish blue that came from Dollar Tree. And this was in the Easter section. And it was also $3 ribbon, but it was really nice. If you find this, if you have a Dollar Tree, which is the Dollar Tree Plus, those are stores that have all the $1.25 stuff. Plus, they have a section, one aisle that has $3 and $5 things. Look and see what kind of ribbon they have there, because they had some beautiful stuff. And I did this the same dimension exactly. It's not quite 7 inches long. Okay, and I have my glue gun. Ooh, it's not hot. Shoot. Well, let me get it hot. I'll talk for a minute while I'm doing that. You could use really any kind of wired ribbon. The wire part is important though. Let's do this turtle while we're waiting. This is a press and seal turtle. So tell me in the comments what you guys think. Would you be more inclined to use your iron just with dry Mod Podge that you've already painted on and let dry? Or would you be inclined to try this press and seal method? Cut right here. So tell me what you think. I think for me personally, just doing the dry Mod Podge is a little quicker and easier. But if you don't have Mod Podge and you do have some cling wrap, then you're in business. You can do this without even having Mod Podge. Although you're going to want to put a coat of something on the top of it. So it could be a clear matte sealer spray, or it could be like a varnish, a clear varnish or something. You just want to protect the top of your little pieces, especially if they're going to be used at the table, you know, in case they get some water on them or whatever. And this part of sanding, my glue gun's heating up. It's almost ready, so stay with me. This part of sanding is a good TV watching activity to do. Put a tray in your lap to catch all the little bits and pieces, and then sand while you're watching a movie or something. And you will find that it's not bad at all. So if you're going to do the nail file way, which I think is easier also than using a lighter. If you're going to do that, then you're going to want it to be a coarse, file, or the coarse side of an emery board, or if you're going to use a sanding sponge or even sandpaper from the hardware store, you want to use the coarser side, and you're going to go like this. This is the motion. Okay, let's see if I'm heated up yet. So I can show you this next step. So if you liked this video, Nancy sprinkled, you said what I was gonna say before I even said it. If you like this video and you're watching on Facebook, feel free to sprinkle this to your social media. If that's your personal Facebook page, or maybe it's a crafting group that you're involved in. But do make sure if you're gonna sprinkle this to a craft group that it's okay with them, that you're allowed to do that, because I don't wanna get anyone in trouble. I'm just doing one band of this glue. And you guys, I'm using, let's clean this off. Did you know that you can use dryer sheets to get all the strings off of your glue gun? And this is a used dryer sheet, and it's gonna go back in my drawer and I'll use it again. I am using my Surebonder low temperature hot glue gun. It's a mini. It does have a cord, but I'm cool with that. I don't need a fancy one. It's called a Cool Shot. And I feel like it's maybe even cooler than a regular cool temperature hot glue gun. Okay, so I just put a band of glue right here and I put this on. And then I'm gonna bend it around and I'm gonna put, need some more glue right here. This does not burn your fingers. If you're doing this with little ones though, it's probably better for you to be managing the gluing part. And if you're doing it with little ones, it's better for you to be managing the lighter if you're gonna do the burn method. So I'm gonna put another band of glue right here. And I'm just gonna bend my little wired ribbon around and glue it to itself. So I used a natural color wired ribbon, and just to give it some stability, I'm gonna tack it down a little bit on either side. And then when you put it away, or if you were going to mail this to a friend, you can just smoosh it flat. And you could pop this in an envelope if you wanted. But then you can bend it back out. So I personally, for my house, I have tons of light blue. That's why I opted to use this light blue, kind of light gray wired ribbon. But I think this looks great too with the natural. And for $1.25, you can get a pretty decent sized roll of this. It'll be in the section that has the polka dot stuff too. And yeah. So that's what I wanted to show you guys. I hope you liked seeing the different ways that you can Mod Podge. Everything from using an iron and some dry Mod Podge to using that iron and a lighter to burn it off. You can also, if you don't have Mod Podge, you can use, press and seal or any kind of clear cling wrap that you have and an iron. I don't recommend burning the ones that you're going to use press and seal on. For those, you would want to use a fingernail file that is, or a sanding block that is as coarse as you can get. Alrighty, well, if you guys have any questions, don't hesitate to ask. If your Dollar Tree doesn't have $3 and $5 items, that's no big deal. You can get these wood shapes all over. Walmart has them. Hobby Lobby has them. You know, they're not unique to Dollar Tree. And if your Dollar Tree doesn't have any of this kind of napkin, then just use what you have. Other sources that I've found for good napkins are Tuesday Morning and what is that called? Home Goods. So, alrighty, we'll do a this or a this. If you liked this video, say something to me in the comments. And make sure that you've liked and followed this page, DiyDreaming, if you're watching on Facebook, or that you've subscribed to my YouTube channel if you're watching it on YouTube. You can comment there as well. And, oh, because tomorrow is Christ in Crafting. And if you want Facebook to serve it to you, their algorithm is mysterious. It's a nice way to put it, but you improve your odds that Facebook will actually serve it to you if you do a this or a this, if you say something to me in the comments, whatever, and if you've liked and followed DiyDreaming. Tomorrow, we are going to be talking about that quote. I'm trying to remember which verse it's from. I can't remember for sure. But it's the one that says, joy comes in the morning. So we're going to talk more about what that is, what that means, what God is telling us with that. And I don't know if you're like me, but I'm not a great sleeper. In fact, I'm really a horrible sleeper. And I pretty much every night wake up in the middle of the night and I can start to worry. My mind can go down all these worst case scenario paths for the people that I love. But I try to take my mind captive and make it obedient to Christ and think on the things that God would have me think on and trust Him. But in the morning, I notice that all those dark worries tend to be gone. And you have joy in the morning. So that's what we're going to be talking about. I'm not 100% clear on what our craft will be, but I do know that that is the verse, the idea from the Bible that we'll be talking about. So I would love to have you join me tomorrow. I do Christ in Crafting. I do it live 2 or 3 Sundays a month. I've been doing it for almost 2 years. And I usually go live between 12 and 4 o'clock every Sunday. If I'm going to do a replay of a previous one that was maybe 1.5 years ago, or the topic is relevant to what's going on in world events, I usually replay those also between 12 and 4. But you can look for me to do a brand new Christ in Crafting, either 2 days a month, 2 Sundays a month, or 3. Erlene says that when she gets like that in the middle of the night awake and thinking about the worst case things, that she starts singing. That is a really good thing to do. And reminding yourself of the promises that God made to you, that He loves you, He created you, He knows everything about you, and He cares about everything that you care about. He has a plan, and it's a good plan for your life. And if you've placed your trust in Jesus Christ as your personal Lord and Savior, then He has a house, a room in His mansion waiting for you to be in His presence for eternity. So anyways, I hope you'll join me tomorrow, this Sunday, for Christ in Crafting. And I hope you liked these projects. I hope I gave you some new ideas about different ways to do decoupage. And I hope that you have a wonderful rest of your day. So I'm going to go sit down now and read all of your comments and answer all of your questions. And I'm going to be super curious to see how many people sprinkled this to their Facebook page. If you didn't get a chance to do that, you can always come back later if you want to. And yeah. All right. Have a blessed rest of your day.